The Spanish-American War was fought in 1898. This war was conflict between the United States and Spain that ultimately ended Spain's rule in Western Pacific and Latin America. The war originally began because of the Cuban struggle for independence from Spain, which began in February of 1895. This drew the interest of the United States government because it almost stopped trades with the Cuban ports, which was valued at about $100 million annually. This drew the attention of the United States citizens because of how awful the people of Cuba were being treated and how harsh and horrible their situations were. Many more incidents almost led to the United States intervening in between Spain and Cuba. The first big one being the riots in Havana. In December, the United States sent battleship SS Maine to that city's port. This was to protect the United States citizens on that property. The next big event was when the New York Journal printed a letter from the Spanish minister Enrique Dupuy de Leon describing President McKinley as weak and a popularity hunter. On February 15, 1898, the USS Maine sank. About 260 of the crew members were killed. The cause behind the explosion is still unsure. The media stated that it was a torpedo shot by Spain. Many different countries contacted President McKinley and asked him not to go to war. But however, on April 24, 1898, Spain declared war on the United States. Congress declared war back on Spain the very next day. On May 1st, George Dewey led a U.S. naval squadron into Manila Bay in the Philippines. They then destroyed an Anchorage Spanish fleet. This war was mostly one-sided and Spain was very unprepared for it. U.S. forces took over the city of Manila, and by the end of July, about 11,000 U.S. troops occupied the Philippines. After this, forces centered in Cuba upon war. These military forces included Roosevelt's Rough Riders and the Buffalo Soldiers of the 9th and 10th Cavalries. These soldiers arrived in Cuba near Santiago. On July 1st, it was the end of the battles El Caney and San Juan Hill. These were huge battles in this war. On July 3rd, Cervera, who was a leader in the Spanish military, led his squadron out of Santiago. While trying to escape, all his ships were under fire from the U.S. They were beached. Then 2 weeks later, the city of Santiago surrendered to Shafter, which ultimately ended the Spanish-American War. Even though the war was over, the United States still occupied Puerto Rico. On August 12, 1898, armistice negotiations were conducted. This was an agreement with Spain to surrender all their authority over to Cuba and to cede Puerto Rico as an unnamed island to the United States. After a long thought-out process, McKinley decided that the United States must take possession of the 7,000 islands and the 7 million people of the Philippines. Spain agreed as long as the United States was to pay $20 million for public buildings and public works in the Philippines. On December 10, 1898, the Treaty of Paris was signed. Spain relinquished Cuba and the United States gained Philippines, Puerto Rico, and Guam. All of this led to the United States emerging as a world superpower.